You're incredible for clicking on this video. We're going to get straight into this ultimate Pixar tier list with Toy Story going straight to S. It's the first CGI film in modern animation, and it is the benchmark as such. A great film with a great adventure in it. I think the Buzz gimmick of him not realizing he's a toy will always make me laugh. And I think that it redefined modern animation in many aspects. It's funny and it's still very rewatchable, although the animation now admittedly does look dated with over 20 years past its release. A Bug's Life is not very good, I'm going to be honest. I've seen this one the least probably out of all of the Pixar films. I don't think it's terrible. I just don't think it's very good and not worth revisiting often, so it's going to go into D tier. Followed by Toy Story 2. Toy Story 2 is my least favorite of the franchise. Bit of a spoiler there, but I still think it's a good film. I like Jesse, and I think the villain's name is the Prospector, I believe. He was a menace, and I think Jesse added a lot of needed character dynamics into this franchise. So I'm going to put it in B tier. I also liked the third act with the plane chase. Very entertaining cinema. Monsters, Inc. is going straight into S tier as well. Fantastic film that I can rewatch very often. The intro to that film is so good. It's so creative. The concept in and of itself is so unusual and so out of the box. It almost makes you question how Pixar comes up with an idea so unique and yet so brilliant. Finding Nemo, also going straight into S tier. Pixar, it seems, has a stacked catalog. I love Finding Nemo. Your sister, your mom, your uncle, everybody loves Finding Nemo. I think it's a fantastic film that takes you on an incredible adventure. It's worth revisiting often as well, and it holds up incredibly well with the story of family being at the center, like a lot of Pixar films. The Incredibles, yet another one going straight into S tier. If you haven't been able to tell by now, I'm doing them in the order that they've been released by Pixar. So in the beginning, there's going to be a little bit more of the ones in S tier just because they were on a roll in the early 2000s. The Incredibles, honestly, I think I'm going to put it at the top of S tier. I think that in terms of a Fantastic Four film that is really good, that the pop culture sphere has not received, it is this film. I think the characters' personalities all bounce off of each other really well. You really buy the family dynamic that they have with each other. Syndrome is a sensationally written villain with a tease to it in the beginning, and his actions are justified. And of course, the line, "If everyone's super, no one will be," still gives me chills. A flawless film, 10 out of 10, one of my favorite of all time. Cars. You saw in the thumbnail, I'm not as big of a Cars fan as most, but as I've gotten older, I like it more. I'm going to put it in B. If you asked me a couple of years ago, it may be in C tier, right in the middle of the pack. But I think the soundtrack, as well as the lessons that Lightning McQueen learns on the journey he goes into this film, resonate with me more as I get older and can understand his perspective. So very good film. Love it, and love the lesson that he learns. Ratatouille, if you know me personally, you know this is not only my favorite Pixar film, ladies and gentlemen, this is my favorite film, period, of all time. I could talk about Ratatouille for quite a while with all of the reasons that I love it. I think cooking is a very fun thing to do, and thus it paints the restaurant industry in an incredibly satisfying yet accurate light. I think this is a film that's incredibly rewatchable, super well paced. The soundtrack, the editing, the cinematography, I could go on and on and on. It's also a 10 out of 10 film at the top of S tier. We're going to put WALL-E in A tier. I really admire the ambitious decision of Pixar to not have any dialogue in the beginning of this film. Considering that it's obviously going to be watched by majority children, you're really trusting your audience with that. And I trust that, or I believe that that decision gives this film a bit of a different experience than almost any other in their catalog. The message is so increasingly important as each day passes, so I don't want to make this video too long, but very good film, WALL-E in A tier. We're going to go up next. We all know that first 15 minutes is so sad that if you watch it and didn't get emotional, you may be a little off. in the nicest way possible. But I don't think the rest of the film lives up to as good of a first 15 minutes as it has. Is it good? Yes, but do I rewatch it often? No, I don't. It's one of those films that you watch and after it we're like, yeah, this was good, but I don't really foresee myself watching it again. And for that reason, for me, it's in B tier. Toy Story 3, sensational. This is going to go straight into S tier as well. I think Toy Story 3 is the best of the franchise. It's a bit of a spoiler for the fourth, but the ending is so emotional. It's so captivating that the writers of this film really lead you to believe the entire main cast of the film is going to be incinerated. So I really enjoy the, kind of bow tie, or how the ending is tied up in a bow with completing Andy's entire character arc from kid to going to college and passing on his toys to the next generation. Sensational. Cars 2, straight into F tier. I've watched it one time and thought it was terrible, and my opinion has not changed since then. I don't really want to rewatch this film. It puts Tow Mater in the front, and he's not a leading character by all accounts. So I think it's my least favorite, definitely thus far, but maybe in the entire catalog. Brave, I'm going to put in D tier. It is Pixar's attempt at a Disney princess film, and with that, it's not as good as any of the Disney princess films. I think if you're in the mood for that, you should go watch one of those. The animation is great in this film. Obviously, that's kind of a given for modern Pixar, but I don't really have many memorable things to say about this film other than I remember the mom turns into a bear. Monsters U is straight in the middle for me. I think it's average. I know that there's a really, really big following for this film and that a lot of people love it. I'm not one of those. I went to college, obviously, and saw it before and after I went to university. It's just good. It's just average. It's a little bit better than good. Maybe it should go in B tier. I'll put it in the bottom of B tier. I think it's okay, but not one I really ever go back to. Inside Out, another S tier banger. Arguably the best modern Pixar film, an incredibly inventive idea executed at an incredibly high level. I think this is one that's incredibly rewatchable. I think Bing Bong's death is one of the saddest we've received in fiction. A lot of parallels to our everyday experience as we go out through life. Banger. S tier. The Good Dinosaur is going to go, I think it's going to go into the top of F tier. I think they tried with this film. There's just not much here, really. I mean, the main character is a little kid who can't speak, really. And I guess it could have worked out, but when you have none of the characters really being able to speak throughout the entire film, I think it leads to a forgettable experience. So I'm going to put it in F tier. Here we are now at Finding Dory. Finding Dory's animation, the way it looks only, may be my favorite of any of these. I think that just looking at the film, even with the volume off, you could probably still find some type of enjoyment. I think the way the water looks is just wow. But the story in and of itself is kind of forgettable. Like Cars 2, it puts the side character at the front of the film with Dory, and I don't think that was the best decision, as, they were written into the original film as a side character for a reason. Cars 3 is pretty forgettable, if I'm being honest. I'm going to put it at the top of D tier. I think that the ending was pretty corny off of what I remember Lightning becoming Hudson Hornet, but it's a memed film. You often will find it on social media about how the younger generation is coming up and ready to pass the current superstar, but I mean, I guess it's good for the memes. I don't really enjoy it much more than for that reason. So moving on, we have Coco. Is another S tier film. I almost think it's flawless. The music is the best in any Pixar film, almost best in any Disney film. I mean, it's really up there with the 90s Disney films soundtracks. Incredible story, incredible animation. There's just so much to unpack here, and for the sake of time, I will leave it in S tier, but I mean, if you've seen it, you know why it's so good. Here we have Incredibles 2, not as nearly as good as the first, Really cool sequences in it, though. I'm going to put it B tier. I'm going to put it B tier. I think Mrs. Incredible lends herself to be a better protagonist than some of the other side characters Pixar has positioned at the front of their films. But I don't think that the villain is very good in comparison to the first. It's a twist, yes, but upon like second watch, I know obviously second watch you know the twist, but it's very predictable. You could see it coming. I wish that there was more family aspects in this film together, them doing stuff together, as that's what I found the really special moments to be in the first film. Toy Story 4, pretty good, unnecessary, but pretty good. Putting it in C tier feels a bit disrespectful, but it's definitely better than Monsters University. So I'm going to put it in B tier. I think that, like I had said a couple of times now, it wasn't really needed, but it is a continuation of a story that we've grown up with, and you could see there was money behind why the reason this film was made. I mean, they added a lot of big names to the voice acting lineup, such as Keanu Reeves, but I just don't think it's one I come back to, and I would much rather watch 3 or the original if I'm wanting to go back to that universe. Onward, I think, is actually a little underrated, to be honest. I think many people don't enjoy it. I've seen it probably 3 times now, and I think Tom Holland and Chris Pratt do a really good job. Is it a great film? No. Is it at the top of Pixar's catalog? No. But it's something unique. It's an original story that they tried, and I think the ending kind of is not what I would have liked, as they kind of end up back where they started, but maybe that's the point, and I'm not seeing it, right? Soul's up next. I really enjoy Soul. I'm going to put it straight into A tier. I don't think it's an S. I think it's a little bit too abstract of a film to put into S tier, but it's definitely an intelligent person's film. I mean, the ideas that it conveys to you throughout its runtime really leave you thinking about what is the most important thing to you in life. And I really appreciate films that are animated and not just super, super specifically tailored towards children. I remember watching it upon initial release when it came out on Disney+, enjoyed it, and I've only grown to enjoy it more over time. Luca. Is it S tier? Is Luca S tier? It's definitely A tier. It's definitely, I think it's better than, is Luca better than Up? Is Luca better than Up? Oh, I'm going to put it at the bottom of A tier. I think it's really close to Up and really probably close to Soul. Again, original story with its own feel. The animation is sublime, but that's kind of standard in modern Pixar, so it feels a little easy to say, but still very good. The story of him, learning who he is and what he wants, Luca specifically, is an inspiring one, and I think that with the soundtrack of the Italian feel this film brings, lends itself to many rewatches. Very good modern Pixar, in my opinion. Turning Red is going to go... Turning Red is D tier, and it's at the bottom of D tier. Like I've said several times, the way the film looks is fantastic, but I honestly don't remember or like much about this film other than that. I think it was pretty corny throughout. I don't think it was a film made for me. I don't think it was made for a film. I don't think it was made for someone who's in their 20s, who's a male. But at the same time, I'm sure there are 20-year-olds who are men who love this film. It's just not me, really. And I don't think I would want to go back to it very often. I mean, a film about a boy band, going to a boy band concert and trying to hide it from your mom, it just doesn't really resonate with me. Next, we have Lightyear. I think Lightyear was also really not very good. I think it was better than Turning Red, and I think it was better than Brave, but it's not better than Bug's Life. What was a risk upon paper, or maybe not that big of a risk because it's a spinoff of their most popular franchise, but a risk on paper, it was average in execution. They really played it safe for a lot of the aspects of this film, and I do like the interstellar kind of aspects that this film is clearly drawn inspiration from, but it's nowhere near as good as Interstellar in terms of the themes and motifs that the film contains. So for me, it's D tier. Elemental, I really, really liked. I thought it was a very good film. I'm actually going to put it in A tier as well. And looking at Up and B tier just doesn't seem right, guys. So I'm putting Up in A tier as well. I'm moving up. But more on Elemental. It's a romance story at its core that takes polar opposites, literally, of water and fire, and throws them in a situation where they have to learn, about the differences that they have and what brings them together. The bow at the end of this film, unreal. I get emotional every time I watch it. I think the only thing that's holding it back is at times Wade, the water character, is kind of annoying, but such is lifetime at times with animated films. And to finish the list, we have the most recent Inside Out 2. Admittedly, I haven't had a lot of reflection on this film, but I definitely don't think it's an S. I definitely don't think it's an A. It probably goes in the middle. Is it better than Cars? It's not better than Cars. Or Toy Story 4. It goes into B tier right above Monsters University. It's a concept that was expanded into more of what it already had in the first. And the new emotions, for me specifically, I found anxiety to be very annoying. So much so to where I had a hard time almost justifying any of the actions that character made in the film. And I wish they had more of the family, like the mom and the dad, that I think were included a bit more in the first and wish was included more in the second film. I've been talking for a while. Don't know how long this video is at so far, but if you've made it all the way to the end, you are incredible. Subscribe to make the dream a reality, and then I'll see you very, very soon tomorrow in the next one. Have a great day.